For this art project, we'll be using 1-point perspective and making a country road that looks like it goes off into the distance. 1-point perspective is based upon there being 1 point in the distance at which things appear to vanish. We also call it a vanishing point. To get started, you'll need your paper in the landscape direction. The portrait direction will work, but it won't work as well. Put your finger in the middle of the paper and then slide down. And put your point. That will be our vanishing point for our 1-point perspective country road. From there, just go straight across to the edge. If the line is not perfectly straight, it's okay, it'll be alright. Go back to the same point and stretch a line the other direction until it also runs off the paper. Put a dot right here and a dot right here. Anywhere in that area will be fine. Now do the best you can. You may have to turn your paper to get comfortable. Do the best you can to make a line straight between these 2 points. You can sketch the line, which is just overlapping your strokes like this, or you can just run the line as straight as you can. Now if you miss the point, that's okay. Just run off the edge. Same thing to the other side. You can sketch the line with short overlapping strokes and just kind of aim at it, work the line toward it, or you can just run the line as straight as you can and don't worry about hitting the point, just run off the edge. If you were to turn your paper around, you can see it makes a great big K. If you've got something that looks like a K, then you're good to go. It's ready. I'm going to double up these lines. I'm going to start at the point, and I'm just going to stretch a line out that's really close to the first line. It gets a little bit wider as it comes down, but if it don't, it'll still be okay. We're going to make like the shoulder of the road. Once again, I'm going to start at the point, and I'm just going to follow this line. Now, I'm going to go back to this point, and I'm going to put 3 really tiny lines. Actually, they're more like dots back in there. Really small. Now, this is one of the important things to get the illusion of distance. It's going to make it look like the road goes far into the distance. Then as I come down, I'm going to make the lines a little bit longer. Each one's just a little bit longer than the one before, and the spacing gets a little bit greater. Until finally, when you get down in here, you've got the longest one of all. First couple, or these 2 on the end, just get a little bit thicker. Already it's starting to create the illusion of something going off into the distance. Now I'm going to put a sign over here. And my sign is going to say Dollywood. Yours can be something different. I think I'm going to make mine about this wide. You can make any size rectangle over here as long as it's big enough to put the words on it that you want to put. I'm going to do 2 lines that are straight like flagpoles, and then I'm going to cross over the top. I'm going to double up those lines very carefully. I just watch that spacing and try to keep it the same. I don't worry about the corners right now. I'll get those in a minute. Right now I'm just trying to create lines that give me the same spacing around as much as possible, and I'm not too worried about it being perfect. If it needed to be any better than that, I would just measure. Now for the bottom of the sign, a lot of times there will be that board or that platform that people stand on, so I'm going to move out just a little bit and make two tiny little lines and then go across and align the bottom edge of the sign up with the horizon just to keep there from being some extra space in there that we have to deal with. I'm going to put two short legs. Now the billboards, as you approach places like that, are usually on huge poles, really way up in the air, but that won't work for us on this project, so we're going to make it fit our purpose. That's art. You can do anything you want. Now I'm just going to spell out Dollywood, and I'm going to put 15 miles. So it's like we're on a country road, and there are a lot of country roads that lead you to Dollywood. I've been on quite a few of them. Anything you want to change it. I'm going to put a roller coaster on mine, and you don't have to do that, but you can. Or something else that reminds you of Dollywood, maybe a big butterfly. Now I'm going to cross back over these. I'm not too worried about how perfect it is. It just gives the idea that this is a roller coaster. It's just an illustration. And you could have a really skinny piece like that with, oh, maybe a circle and a couple lines like somebody's got their arms throwed up. But again, that's not necessary. Alright, I'm going to go over here and make a tree. And I'm going to make the tree about this tall. And I'm going to start by just bringing a line down pretty straight. Trees aren't really perfectly straight. And I'm just going to come down into this space. And I will double this line. But as I come down, it'll get a little bit wider. And then I'll just finish it off with some grass. I like to put grass where things sit on the ground or attached to the ground. It just looks more natural to me. Put your finger where this line and this section of the tree come together. Put your finger right there and slide up. And put a little dot on the tree right at that point. Now just skip over here and put a dot, and over here and put a dot, ever how wide you want your tree to be. And then go up and put a dot up in here, and that's just a little reminder that we're going to be going around the tree trunk with something like an oval. It won't be a perfect oval. And we're going to use this a really simple stroke. It's like a W, but it's rounded. And we'll put those together 3 or 4 at a time. It's like 1, 2, 3. I'm not worried about hitting those dots. You can erase yours. I can't erase mine. And as you just go around, you just keep that same pattern of strokes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now go above the top of the tree. I'll put a dot up there. Those dots just help me get where I need to go with the line. They're just little reminder marks that you need to be here or going this way. I use them all the time. 1, 2, 3. On around. Now, honestly, I could have went around that tree in just a few seconds, but I go slow so that it makes it easier for people that may not have done it that much before. The tree branches just go out toward the edge of the tree. And this is an illustration. It's not meant to be like a photograph of a tree because you would not see the detail that clearly. It would be covered with leaves in places. But we're just using an illustration that will look pretty good for what we're doing. After I do that, I put a couple of extra branches on it, and I do that all the time. If the line ends up not being really straight, then, well, that's good. Branches rarely ever go straight for very far. Just take your time, and if you've got a different way to make a tree or you want a different kind of tree, that's fine. It's art. Do whatever you want. And that'll work for the tree that we need for this space. Now I'm going to put some hills or mountains back in there, and you can do yours differently, but I'm just going to use curved lines. Kind of looks like it's going to start like a rainbow and then it stretches out. I'll go slow. I'm going to put the first line right in there, and it's just got a little bit of a curve in it. Just let your eyes tell you if you're trying to follow this. Your eyes are very powerful. Best drawing instrument you have. Over here, I'm just going to bring that down like that. Now I'm going to start like a rainbow and just stretch it out, and I'm going to let that one hit pretty close in the center where I started everything earlier. It doesn't have to, but for this particular project it will look pretty good if the sun is kind of lined up there. That's a nightmare if you're driving, but great if you're doing art. I'm going to put another section of mountains over here, or hills. I'm going to skip over that tree, and if you don't do that, that's fine. You can just start a new one there. It's like a rainbow, only I stretch it down to the ground. One more time, and I'm going to let this one end in the middle also. You can put a great big sun or a smaller sun. The important thing is to get it round if you can, as round as you can. So I'm going to use a pencil, and only use markers on these projects so that things show up better. Pencils don't show up that great in my videos, so I use markers. I think I'll start by putting a point there at the top of the sun, and then I can sketch this out like a rainbow shape. And after I get that looking as round as I think it ought to be, that'll work. I'll go over it. You can make your sun yellow or yellow and orange. If it's a sunset, there might be a little bit of orange in it. If it's a sunrise, it's just probably a bright light yellow. I like to put these little marks to show that it's shining bright. And I just alternate short lines and long lines, just like this. If yours is different, that's okay. Now we've got this great big sky, and a lot of times I'll just put a few little fluffy clouds. You don't have to do that. And another thing I've been liking to do lately is to put a flock of birds. And I make those like M's. Bigger at first, a little smaller, and then finally they're just dots. Because as things get further away from you, they appear to be smaller. They're not really smaller, but they appear to be smaller. And that's the same thing we did with the middle of the road. We just made really short lines, and they got a little bit longer or bigger as we come down, and it gives the illusion very well. Alright, now that leaves a good bit of time for coloring, but first I am going to put a little bit of grass, and you could put flowers if you want, a field of flowers. Well, you make tulips are pretty. You could use tulips or something else. It doesn't have to be any particular flower. You can just make one up. And when I do grass, I don't do blades of grass like toothpicks in the ground. It doesn't do it for me. When I do grass, I like to make it more like the grass in my yard. It just goes every different direction, and it's common. This is the way grass is, unless it's like really intentionally done differently. This is the way grass is. If it were on a golf course, it'd probably be very, very, very short and look a little bit different, but this isn't a golf course, it's a field. You don't have to put it everywhere, and don't really put it back in here because that just blends into a kind of a solid looking color. You see more detail up close and lots less detail when things are further away. Alright, I think that's going to do it. Now if you wanted to put a rabbit or a squirrel or something else in the picture, you could. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that drawing, and I'm going to play you some music.